one coffee-stained resume, one broken heel, one wrong elevator. And she was mistaken for the CEO's future wife. Before we begin the story, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Let's dive into the story together. The glass doors slid open, and Chloe Martins stepped into the lobby of Parker Holdings, a towering structure of steel and glass where everything, from the walls to the people, looked expensive and well-rehearsed. She didn't belong here, and she knew it the second she crossed the threshold. Her right heel had snapped 2 blocks ago. Her hair was pinned up with 2 borrowed clips and sheer hope, and the only blazer she owned that looked professional made an awkward swishing sound every time she moved. Worse? The resume in her hand had a very obvious coffee stain in the corner. Faint, but definitely there, like someone had once used it as a coaster. Still, Chloe stood tall. Her appearance might have been falling apart, but her determination was perfectly intact. She double-checked the address. Parker Print, ground floor just past the pharmacy. There were no clear signs anywhere, and in her nervous haze, she walked straight into the executive elevator bay. A woman in a sleek headset and lipstick as dark as wine barely glanced at her over rimless glasses. Name Chloe Martins. I'm here for the interview. Without a single nod or smile, a visitor badge was pushed across the counter. 23rd floor, room 2304. Chloe stepped into the elevator. The people around her wore suits that had never seen wrinkles and cologne that probably cost more than her rent. She straightened her back, mimicking their posture. Maybe it's a fancy copy shop, she told herself. When the doors opened, she found herself in a corridor too quiet, too pristine. Thick carpeting muffled her footsteps. A neatly dressed assistant led her to a glass-walled meeting room. Mr. Parker will see you shortly. Before she could say a word, she was alone in a room that looked more like a luxury law firm than any office she'd ever seen. Leather chairs, a wall-sized screen, a water dispenser that belonged in a spa. Then, the door opened. Nathan Parker walked in. Not just a man, but a presence. Tailored charcoal suit, black tie, silver watch. Eyes cool, focused. He didn't look at her right away. He set his tablet down, took his seat, and said, "Chloe Martins, applying for personal secretary?" Chloe swallowed hard and forced a nervous smile. "Yes, I'm great with A4 paper, stubborn printers, and, when needed, broken hearts. Fixed one once with coffee and 2 egg sandwiches." Nathan looked up, brow raised. "Parker Print is a small copy shop. Ground floor, 2 doors past the pharmacy." A beat of silence. Chloe blinked. "So, this isn't it? This is Parker Holdings, a global tech firm. The interview here is for my executive assistant." She should have stood up, apologized, walked out, but not this time. This time she stayed. "Well, that escalated," she said with a shaky laugh. "Still, I'm surprisingly adaptable. I answer phones, I schedule things, and if necessary, I can pretend I understand financial jargon. I also never spill coffee, unless the floor tilts." Nathan looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't polished, she wasn't prepared. But something about her honesty, the way she held herself despite everything, made him pause. "You're selling yourself for a position you didn't apply for, in a company you walked into by mistake," he said flatly. "That's called flexibility," she replied, tilting her head. "High-pressure situations? Like this one? I thrive under them." Nathan Parker chuckled. Just once. Softly. But it was the first time in 3 years he had laughed during an interview. And somehow the girl with the coffee-stained resume, broken heel, and squeaky blazer wasn't shown the door. Minutes later when he said, "You start tomorrow," Chloe Martins couldn't quite believe what just happened, but she knew one thing for sure. For the first time in her life, her biggest mistake opened the right door. If you've ever taken a wrong turn that led to something unexpectedly right, hit that subscribe button. Stories like this? They find you when you least expect them. Nathan Parker wasn't the kind of man who asked for help, let alone something personal. But that afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the glass walls of his corner office and the city buzzed below like a distant hum, he found himself saying something he never thought he would. "I need a girlfriend," he said flatly. Chloe Martins nearly choked on the cup of water she'd been sipping. What? He didn't look up. He just kept his eyes on the screen in front of him, fingers steepled like a man preparing to negotiate a merger, not a relationship. "My grandmother's planning to marry me off," he said calmly. "She's arranged 3 dates this month. The first is Friday. If she thinks I'm already in a committed relationship, she'll back off." Chloe blinked. Once. Twice. "So, you want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" Nathan finally looked at her. His eyes, cool and unreadable, searched her face. "You're convincing," he said, "and unexpected. No one would assume this is a performance." Chloe let out a dry laugh. "Unexpected? Great. That's just rich people code for you don't belong here, isn't it?" His jaw tightened, only slightly. "I meant that you're not rehearsed," he said. "You don't play games. You say what you think. That's rare." She crossed her arms, studying him. This man, who wore suits like armor and measured his words with surgical precision, was now asking her, the girl with second-hand shoes and a cracked phone screen, to pose as his partner in front of the woman who probably had monogrammed linen for her cat. Chloe had grown up knowing exactly what people like Nathan thought of girls like her. Her last boyfriend once told her, during an argument, that she was too poor to dream out loud. And now? Now she was being offered an invitation into a life where tablecloths matched the wine, but only as a guest, only as an act. Still, her rent was overdue. Her resume had a coffee stain, and something in Nathan's voice, controlled but not cold, hinted at a loneliness he didn't dare name. She inhaled slowly. "Okay, I'll do it." His brows rose, just a bit. "That easy?" "Not easy," she said, meeting his gaze. "Calculated." Nathan nodded once. "You'll have full access to my calendar. Family dinners, charity events, the occasional brunch." She rolled her eyes. "God, brunch? The rich really are different." He almost smiled. Almost. "Let's keep this clean," she added quickly. "No kissing, no real touching. And if anyone asks how we met, you were hired," he said. She narrowed her eyes. "No one falls in love with their assistant. Too cliché." Nathan tilted his head, intrigued. "What do you suggest?" Chloe leaned forward, voice dry but steady. "You spilled coffee on me in the lobby. I insulted your tie. You were appalled, and somehow charmed." He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "That'll work." But even as the agreement settled between them, paperless, wordless, drawn in glances rather than ink, something else stirred. Beneath the banter, behind the sarcasm, she was intrigued, not just by the wealth, or the world he lived in, but by him, by the flicker of hesitation when he spoke about family, the way he looked out the window when emotions got too close, the way he almost smiled but never let it stay. And Nathan, he didn't admit it, not even to himself, but the moment Chloe said yes, something in him exhaled. She was chaos wrapped in charm, a walking contradiction, too bold to be ignored, too real to be just pretend. He told himself this was strategy, but somewhere deep down, in a place he didn't dare touch, he already knew. He was making a mistake, one he might want to make again. Nathan's apartment looked like it had never heard laughter, the kind of space where nothing was out of place, because nothing unexpected ever stayed long enough to leave a mark. The lines were sharp, the furniture silent, stainless steel, black granite, low hums from concealed lighting. Every surface reflected a man who believed emotions were liabilities, best kept out of sight, like old family photographs in the back of a drawer. Then Chloe moved in. Not all at once, not with fanfare. Just quietly. A purple suitcase, a chipped mug, a sweater that smelled faintly of lavender and late nights, and something else. Presence. She stood at the entrance of the guest room, running her fingers along the smooth edge of the dresser. "So, this is Switzerland," she whispered. Nathan, standing a few feet behind, tilted his head. "Excuse me?" "Neutral zone," she said, half smiling. "No judgment, no assumptions, just peace." He didn't reply. But something in his chest shifted. Barely, but enough. That first week was a slow rhythm of quiet rituals. 2 cups of coffee in the morning, hers with cream and honey, his black. She left sticky notes with reminders in doodled handwriting. He moved them, but never threw them away. At dinner, she filled the silence with soft humming. He never asked her to stop. They lived like people tiptoeing through a fragile truce. And somehow it worked. They set ground rules, scribbled in different pens, taped on the fridge like a child's science fair project. Rule number 1. Don't knock unless it's urgent, or you're holding snacks. Rule number 2. No serious life talks after 11 p.m. Rule number 3. If the kitchen catches fire, blame the toaster. But the most important rule was unspoken. Don't get too close. Chloe respected it. Nathan pretended to. Late one evening, she sat cross-legged on the living room floor, sorting through a tangled mess of charger cables, murmuring curses under her breath. Her hair was messy, her sleeves rolled up, and there was a faint smear of chocolate near her mouth. Nathan watched her from the doorway, leaning silently against the frame. "What are you doing?" he asked finally. "Trying to unravel my life," she said. Then looked up and grinned. "Starting with your drawer of digital spaghetti." He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. And that was enough. The turning point came without warning. It was nearly midnight. Rain tapped gently against the windows. The lights were low. A soft jazz record played. Her choice, not his. And the world outside felt far away. Nathan sat on the couch, one hand around a warm cup of tea. Chloe curled beside him, feet tucked under a blanket, eyes half closed. No words, just presence, safe, still, almost too still. Then a whisper, barely audible. "My ex told me no one would ever choose someone like me. Said I was too loud, too poor, too messy to belong anywhere." Nathan looked at her, but she didn't look back. "I believed him for a long time," she continued. "Until now. I don't know why, but I don't feel invisible here." A pause. Then he spoke. Quietly. Measured. "My father had 2 families." Her eyes turned to him, slowly. "He took me to baseball games on Saturdays. My mother thought it was tradition. But really, it was convenience. The stadium was close to his other house." The pain wasn't in his voice. It was in the stillness of his breath, in the way he stared at the floor. Chloe didn't interrupt. She didn't offer comfort. She just sat closer. Not touching, but not distant. Later that night, as she stood in the kitchen refilling her glass, Nathan walked in. Still in his shirt sleeves, no tie, no mask. They stood quietly in the glow of the fridge light. She turned. He didn't speak, but his eyes said everything he couldn't. Not scripted, not planned. He stepped closer. Just a breath. She looked up. And then, a pause. The kind of pause where the whole world stills, where the only sound is a soft inhale and without a word. He kissed her, gently. No urgency, no expectation, just real, like a man who didn't know how to fall, but did anyway. She froze, then melted, not because she had to, but because, for the first time in a long time, she felt wanted, without conditions. When they pulled apart, he looked away first. She didn't ask what it meant. He didn't explain, and that was enough, at least for now, because something had shifted, not loudly, not all at once, but deeply. It happened on a Tuesday, nothing special about the day, nothing dramatic, no storm, no violins, just a quiet night, and two people who had been pretending for too long. The apartment was still. Too still. Dinner had been quiet. A few mumbled words, forks clinking, the kind of silence that didn't ask for permission, just lingered like a fog between them. Chloe stood by the kitchen sink, rinsing plates that didn't need rinsing. Her hands moved, but her mind didn't follow. She was trying not to think about the way Nathan had looked at her earlier, sharp, distant, like she'd said too much, or not enough. He stood behind her, arms crossed, leaning against the doorway. The argument hadn't been loud, but it had left something cracked. He had snapped. She had laughed, too sharp, too defensive. "You know what your problem is?" she'd said. "You don't even know how to be uncomfortable." And he'd said, without raising his voice but cutting like ice, "At least I don't mistake attention for affection." She hadn't spoken since. Now, the water ran over her hands, warm and pointless. Nathan stepped forward. Slowly. "Chloe." She didn't turn around. "Just shut the faucet off." "I shouldn't have said that," he said. She exhaled, quiet. "It's fine. It's not." The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. Chloe turned to face him. Her eyes didn't blink. "You don't have to feel guilty, Nathan," she said. "This was always a deal. You get your freedom. I get my paycheck. We smile in photos. We lie to your grandmother. That's the script." He stared at her. Something flickered behind his eyes. Not confusion. Not regret. Something else. "You think I kissed you that night because of the script?" Her breath caught, just barely. "But he saw it. I didn't mean... You think I watch you make coffee at 7 a.m. in that ridiculous flamingo robe because of the act?" She opened her mouth. "Closed it. I watch you," he said, voice lower now. "And I don't know what I'm doing, but I know it stopped being pretend the moment you moved in." Chloe's chest rose slowly. Then again, her voice, when it came, was quiet, unsteady. "Then why push me away?" Nathan stepped closer. 1 foot. 2. "I was scared." The words dropped like stones. "And I still am." A beat. And then he kissed her. No build-up, no warning, just breath, skin, contact. His hand slid to the back of her neck, her fingers instinctively to his chest. It wasn't careful or perfect. It wasn't choreographed for anyone else to see. It was flawed, real, and for one impossible second, it was safe. When they pulled apart, Chloe's eyes stayed closed a moment longer. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "That wasn't in the script." Nathan's forehead rested gently against hers. "I'm rewriting it." And in that stillness, for the first time in her life, Chloe believed she was more than enough. Not a placeholder, not a joke, just a woman. Being kissed because someone finally saw her. If that moment made your heart pause, go ahead and subscribe. Because here, love isn't loud, it's honest, and sometimes that's what makes it unforgettable. Morning light spilled into the apartment like nothing had changed. It touched the polished counters, the perfectly folded throw on the couch, the 2 empty mugs in the sink. one still marked with a faint print of Chloe's lipstick. Nathan stood by the window, stiff in a gray button-down, eyes fixed on the city below, hands in pockets, jaw set. Behind him, Chloe emerged from the guest room. Her steps were soft. She had hoped. Maybe last night had meant something more than a pause in the pretending. But when he turned around, she saw it. The mask was back. Stillness fell between them. Not awkward, not tense, just final. Nathan's voice came without warmth. "This has gone too far." A pause. She didn't move. He didn't soften. "It was a mistake," he said. 3 words. Clean, sharp, like scissors through thread. Chloe didn't cry. She didn't fight. She just nodded once. "I see." He didn't look at her again. Didn't watch as she turned, walked back into the room that had briefly held pieces of her. The suitcase thudded softly as she set it on the bed. The zipper whispered open. One by one, she folded her clothes. Neatly, carefully. Like it mattered. Like doing it right would keep her from falling apart. The pillow went in last. The cookie jar stayed behind. She stepped out into the hallway just as Nathan sat down at the dining table, his back to the door. His posture perfect. Like nothing had ever happened. Like the night before hadn't split him open. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't need to. The door clicked behind her. Warm light flooded the empty doorway. Outside, the hallway stretched quiet and long, lined with clean walls and morning silence. And on the table, beside the half-drunk coffee he hadn't touched since dawn, lay a folded piece of paper. Her handwriting. 4 words. "I'm not your mistake." Then, just beneath, smaller. "But maybe you're not ready for something real." Nothing crossed out. No love, Chloe. No second page, just the truth. Left behind. Like her. If you've ever had to walk away with grace, when your heart wanted to stay, leave a comment and subscribe. These are the stories that see you, that stay with you. She didn't crash. She rose. Quietly. Gently. Like light slipping back through a window someone had once shut on her. Chloe didn't announce a new beginning. She simply began. A metro ride. A knock on a new office door, a startup tucked above a florist's shop, where the air smelled faintly of hope and lavender. The paint on the walls was imperfect. The coffee machine groaned when it worked. And no one cared if her blazer didn't match her shoes. Her first morning started with a folding chair, a cracked keyboard, and a welcome sticky note that read, "Messiness welcome. Bring your weird." She smiled. No pretending here. In the days that followed, Chloe didn't change all at once, but pieces of her slowly began to return. Pieces that had dulled under pressure or shrunk under someone else's silence. We see her sketching ideas on napkins during lunch, reworking campaign headlines in the margins of a notebook, laughing too loud in a brainstorming session. Her voice, once hesitant, now steady, certain, clear. One evening we catch her walking home alone, earbuds in, hair in a soft bun, the sun setting behind her. The song playing is unfamiliar, but it suits her. Light, brave, unfinished. At home, her tiny kitchen glows with yellow light. A potted plant sits on the sill. Slightly wilted, but trying. She eats standing up, reading a book about creativity. Her feet are bare. She looks like someone who's just remembered how to breathe. She doesn't check her phone. She doesn't reread old messages. Instead, she pins a new note above her desk. Handwritten. Simple. Be seen. Be real. Be kind to the girl who tried. And slowly she starts to glow. Not in a loud way, not in the way that asks for attention, but in the way that says, "I'm here, I'm enough, and I'm not looking back." The room was warm with soft light, rows of chairs filled with professionals in suits, notepads in laps, heads tilted in polite attention. A panel banner stretched behind the stage. Human-centered communication in a digital world. But Nathan Parker didn't see the banner. He didn't hear the welcome speech. He didn't even remember why he accepted the invitation. He sat in the last row. Silent, still. His suit, perfect as always. But his hands, one thumb absently running over the other, betrayed a man unprepared for what he was about to feel. And then, she stepped onto the stage. Chloe. A woman transformed. She didn't wear armor, no high heels to impress, no heavy makeup, just a simple blouse, loose hair, and a quiet confidence that didn't ask permission. She wasn't performing. She was present. The spotlight touched her gently, catching the faint glint of a silver necklace and the warmth in her skin. The microphone waited patiently as she stood for a moment before speaking. But Nathan didn't hear her words. Not clearly, because something else took over. The sound dimmed. The world slowed. It was the way she looked out into the room, not scanning, not searching, just offering, as if to say, "You're here, and you matter." Her hands moved as she spoke, calm, certain, no hesitation, no pretending. He watched as others leaned in, watched as she made strangers feel understood, watched as the woman who once stood in his apartment, unsure and apologizing for taking up space, now stood taller than the stage could hold. And then, her eyes found him. From across the sea of faces, Chloe saw him. Nathan didn't blink. Neither did she. There was no nod, no smile, no shift in posture, just stillness, long enough to remember, brief enough to let go. Then she looked away, gracefully, purposefully, like a leaf caught in wind, lifted, not pulled. Nathan's chest rose, then sank. He didn't stand. He didn't wave. He just sat there, still. And that was the moment. No music, no tears, just two people, no longer pretending, and a silence heavy with all the things they didn't need to say. It arrived in the late afternoon. Unmarked envelope, no sender's name, just her address handwritten in neat, all-caps letters. Chloe almost missed it on her way out. But something about the stillness of the package made her pause. She sat on the edge of her kitchen stool, peeled it open slowly. No rush, no expectation. Inside, just one folded piece of paper. No perfume, no wax seal, no signature flourish, just ink. And heart. I wanted a secretary. Then I needed a partner. But what I didn't expect was to fall in love with the woman who taught me how to feel again. If you're willing, I'm done pretending. She read it once, then again. No flowers, no speeches, no grand declarations in public, just honesty, raw, hesitant, and real, and beneath the paper, tucked gently in a small velvet pouch, was a ring. Not the kind that sparkled under chandeliers, no diamonds, no embellishments, just a thin gold band. Plain, steady, intentional. Chloe closed her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, her heart didn't race. It listened. It softened. It said yes, without saying a word. Late afternoon bathed the Parker estate in gold, the kind of light that softened edges and quieted everything it touched. The garden was in full bloom, white roses lining the path like silent witnesses, string lights swaying gently above, not yet lit, but already part of the magic. Guests had long since left. Only the hush of fading footsteps and distant laughter remained, swallowed by the calm. And then, she appeared. Chloe, not in satin or silk, no veil, no train, just a simple dress that moved like wind when she walked, her hair undone and soft, her expression steady. A woman who no longer needed to be introduced, only seen. Nathan stood beneath the arbor, hands clasped loosely, posture relaxed in a way that once would have been impossible for him. No tie, no speech in his pocket, just breath. And her. Their eyes met, not with surprise, not with hesitation, but with something much quieter, much louder, Recognition. Chloe stepped closer, the gravel gently crunching under her heels, until she stopped just a breath away. She tilted her head, eyes glinting with a touch of mischief. No contracts this time? Nathan's lips curved. Slowly. The kind of smile that starts in the eyes and stays long after it fades. Only vows. No one clapped. No one rose from chairs. There were no violins, no cameras, no toast waiting to be raised. Just fingers reaching. Finding. Two hands. Steady. Intertwined. They stood there, under a sky turning soft with evening, surrounded by petals and quiet promises. No performance, no pretending, just presence. And in the way he held her hand, in the way she didn't let go, it was already said. This was no longer a script. It was home. If you've ever believed that the most unexpected detours can lead us to something real, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. What touched you most about Chloe and Nathan's journey? Was there a moment that made you smile? Or quietly catch your breath? And if you were in Chloe's shoes, would you choose to love again? Rate this story from 0 to 10. We truly want to know how it made you feel. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story, where emotion always takes center stage.